Welcome everyone. First up, in terms of slides, there are slides today. They're more to keep me on track than anything else. So in terms of how you slide your Zoom screen about, I wouldn't worry too much about the slides being front and center because um, yeah, some of them have got a few more words than four on them, but not many. So, as I said, they're there to keep us on track more than me on track more than anything else. There'll be copies of the slides afterwards as well. You'll get a copy of the recording, all that wonderful stuff. Um, it will be interactive, so I'll fire in and I'll ask for a bit of participation as we go. But then we'll rattle through, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end to keep this super contextualized for you. But let me start. Tech going wrong again with a story. But this is before the time of Zoom, before the time of LinkedIn and Facebook ads, before email marketing, before the written word, before carrier pigeons. If you were a PR person or a videographer or a strategic coach and you wanted to spread the word about your business, outside of just broadcasting to the person next to you, you had one thing to rely on, and that was word of mouth. And not much has changed, I don't think. It's still, for most people, their most powerful form of marketing. And here's stats to back that up. 84% of B2B decision makers start the buying process with a referral. Once those customers come in, they typically stay longer and spend more. Which all leads to much greater growth, where people have these kind of more formal referral programs in place. And it really just goes to say that it's not just what you know, it's who you know. And so, quick question for you all: how many of you at the moment are getting referrals? Show of hands. Okay, right. Okay, so that's a bit more like okay. And how many of you are asking for referrals? Okay, nice. And how many of you have said you actually have a proper process around referrals? Okay, that's the norm. That is the norm. People start going from that to down. Okay, well, you're not alone. Because only 30% of the companies surveyed actually had a formalized referral program. And that's what today I just want to give you a few kind of little bits and pieces around how you can do this for yourselves. What it's not about is suddenly giving everyone an Amazon voucher and shouting to the world that that's the reason why they're going to give you a referral. It's not about being overbearing and pushy. What it is about, rather than being overbearing, it is about being intentional though. And for most of us, that's the only thing that's missing. Another thing that it isn't is rocket science. This stuff is easy to do, and that's the joy of it. Very quick, for those of you that I haven't met before, don't know that much about me, very quickly, I have a background in business membership. You'll see the Business Scene logo up in the top left, top right. That's a membership organisation that I grew to almost 2,000 members, almost entirely with referrals and strategic partners. I've then been responsible for providing leads to some of the big global brands that you see there. And now at Collaboration Junkie, I'm a referral and strategic partner coach. So I help people with the skills and the systems, strategies and processes to implement brilliant referral processes and awesome strategic referral partner programs as well. On the partner referral thing, just very quickly, because you'll hear me mention it, maybe again over the course of this lunchtime. Referrals I class as coming from anyone and everyone: your customers, your network, your prospects, all the people that are in your network. Essentially, you can get a referral from. Referral partners are where you're working with another business that has a vested interest in referring you on a consistent basis. So it's kind of the next level up. I have a framework around that, and some of you may have been on previous events of mine where I've done that. Today we're focusing on that low-hanging fruit of referrals, where we're all typically leaving a little bit of money on the table. So first thing we want to cover today is why not. So for those of you that aren't asking, or a little bit like, oh, kind of, very quickly, reasons why not. Off mute, shout out, sling them in the chat, whatever you want to do, or not chat, because I can't see the chat. Anyone care to admit why they're not asking at the moment? No takers. Go on, Gideon. Thank you.
I think for me, and I'm sure this probably applies to lots of people, I don't know, I feel a bit cheeky, a bit like it's a bit icky, a bit like, don't know. It's not the fear of rejection, it's more like it's just a bit
Okay. I could not have asked it because the ick. The ick is normally the number one reason. There's normally two reasons, and one of them will be a plethora of things that essentially fits into systems and processes, and the sorts of things we're going to cover today. The other one though is the ick. It's that not wanting to be a burden on someone, feeling that it may be a bit cheeky to ask if they're already a customer or a client. So what I want to very quickly cover today, and I appreciate it's a deeper thing than this. I'm not going to suddenly cure you of the ick in my next 30 seconds of wisdom. But what I do want to ask is, how does it make you feel when you make an introduction to someone and you hear that it goes well? It's a good feeling, right? Yeah. So why wouldn't someone else feel the same when they make a referral to you? So it's almost your duty to ask for referrals, because then you give other people the opportunity to feel that joyous kind of warm fuzzy glow when you know you've connected people up. Because people love to give referrals. People love to give referrals. We just need to make it easy for them. And that making it easy is the real part around what helps us is the next step on from that ick part. Is it stops it being a burden, because you know that you're asking someone to do something that you know they're going to love. You're asking them to refer someone to you that really needs your products and services, and hopefully we all believe that what we do is of value. And so by making it easy, it just removes that burden piece, and on top of that, obviously makes it easier to get a result. Now, there's the best way to make it easy for someone to refer you is to be specific. Now, we've all heard of FOMO, but it's especially true in referrals. When I was working running my membership organization, Business Scene, I was seeing maybe 200 to 300 business owners a week, because we're running events up and down the country in the evening. And when someone said to me, I'd like an introduction to a small business owner, please, no one sprang to mind, because I knew so many. It was like this fog of people. But as soon as someone was more specific about the type of business that they wanted an introduction to, it was immediately much clearer in my mind who that person could be. Now, there's a number of ways that you can be specific. Obviously, you can be very specific about either a named individual. We all know networking groups where they talk about being super specific. I'm looking to speak to John Hicks, who's the managing director at XYZ in so and so. Or slightly down from that, you could be looking to speak to accountants in this region with this number of staff, and that's great. It means that someone knows someone like that right there and then, they might be able to make a referral to you. But another way about being specific is something that I like to call triggers and moments in time. And what these two things are is they're like little mini stories that hang around in your referrer's subconscious, and when they crop up, they're there ready to kind of come to the forefront and allow them to make the right introductions for you. And so let me just cover the two of them off. Moments in time. These are, there are certain points in your prospect's journey, whether it's a business or an individual, where your product or service is absolutely prime ready for them. The sales conversation is the easiest. They just say yes. It's absolutely perfect. It could be a stage of business growth. It could be a number of employees where they take a first employee on, or when they move premises. It could be a certain point in the year if you've got a topical or seasonal service. It could be when someone's launching a new product or service. It could be a commission threshold. Whatever it may be, you will know. And if you don't know these already, I would kind of challenge you to have a little think through about the perfect times for you to be introduced. Because if you share those with people, like if you know of a business that's hitting this point, It's a thing that just sits there all the time, and they'll remember that much more so than you'd like a referral to an accountant. The next step on from this is triggers. And this could either be when someone's in this moment in time, or if we're going broader, the pain that your business solves or the opportunity that it helps enhance. When someone's growing through that process, what are they saying? Okay. What they're not saying typically is what's written on your website or is written on the back of a marketing brochure. It's just not it's just not what they do. What are the actual words that people are saying when they need your product or service? I'm going to stick with accountants because I've mentioned them before. Someone isn't saying, I'm looking for a more proactive accountant who really gets involved early and helps you, shows the way of how I grow my business. What they will be saying is they'll be moaning about the fact their accountant only gets in touch when it's time to pay the bill, or at year end, or at tax return time, or whatever it may be. So it's flipping that kind of the marketing thing to, well, no, what are people actually saying? And they're the triggers again that you can give your referral partners. If you hear someone saying things like, oh, I've got a big presentation coming up and I'm really nervous about how I'm going to pitch it. Well, then that would be the ideal time to refer them to Martin, who's just jumped on the call because he runs Pitch Club. And so it's those sorts of things. What are the pain points that people are, what the pains that people are expressing? Because they are the stories that will just sit there in the back of your referrers' minds. And when they hear someone saying that at a client meeting, at a networking event, they'll go, oh, I know just the person you should speak to. And away you go. Okay. So people love to give referrals. We've just got to make it easy for them, which is about being specific and not being afraid to share this stuff. I know sometimes this stuff might seem like common sense, but there is a saying that I love, and that is that it's not common sense, it's experience. It's our experience that knows that these are the right times to refer. Don't presume your referrers know that. It's better to overshare in a polite way, in a polite, supportive way, than it is keep this stuff to ourselves. So the next thing is when to ask. So very quickly, while I have a little bit of while I have a little bit of drink. Oh, gone too far. We've got a sneak preview of Jonah Hill there. Where you are asking for referrals at the moment, whereabouts are you doing it? Whereabouts in your customer journey, your client journey? When are you asking? Come on, don't be shy.
Just after they've completed a program with me.
Okay. Yep, perfect. Any more?
Yeah, that would be the same for me. Once a project's been completed and it's all gone well, that would be the time to ask for me, I think.
Okay, so that is absolutely the traditional time to ask, and I'm not saying it's a bad time to ask, because when to ask is any time, at any opportune time. But the best time to ask is when your customers are most delighted. When they're absolutely thrilled with you, that is the time to ask, even if it's potentially early doors. I'm going to move on from him because we get distracted for all of us. I call them wow moments. And the wow moments with your clients isn't necessarily once you've completed a project. I've worked with some people where the wow moment is before someone's even a client, because they do so much good pre-work and they get a load of referrals then into more discovery calls. I use the example of when I got my branding done. I can still remember it now. I was in the house actually at the dining room table, and when I got the first kind of the first version of what they were going to do with the Collaboration Junkie brand, oh, I get goosebumps even thinking about it. I was just blown away. It was so much more than I'd ever expected. And then by the time I got all my assets back a month down the line, it was great, but all they'd done is deliver what I'd expected then. The point where they were way up in my estimation was that first bit back. And I know other people though, where it's not at project end, actually it's 3 months down the line, because that's when the SEO work suddenly starts kicking in, or they get these other transformational changes. And so what I would really encourage you to do is to think about your customer journeys and go, where are the wow moments? It won't necessarily be the same for every client. Okay, so this is about having flags where you go, I get wow moments, I potentially get wow moments at these points, and that's where I'm going to ask for a referral. Yes, Claire, fire away.
So how do you come up with a one size fits all process if actually it's not one size fits all, because the wow moments come at different times?
Because there is a tendency to over automate anything to do with referrals and partners and affiliates these days. But at its core, particularly when we're looking at referrals, it's an emotional thing. It's very much a person to person thing. So while I would always suggest there's room for having digital messages and supporting stuff in the background, you'll get most of your referrals from a personal request. And so what it's about is having flags. So you have some kind of internal reminder to go, is this the right time to ask? Now, that doesn't mean that at set points in your customer journey where you know what, most people get a real breakthrough at month 2 in my program, that there isn't an email that goes out and asks people for a referral. I'm not saying you don't do that, that's fine. But for the others, just have flags and pop that personal request in. And sometimes it's literally to pick up the phone. You just get them, see how someone's doing and all that, but you can always put a referral request in.
Great.
The second best time to ask, or maybe even the first, depending on your business, is when someone feels obligated, by the way. You should never make someone feel obligated. That is a bad look. You do not want to be doing that. But there are times where people will naturally feel obligated to you. And you can tell because they feel guilty. They sound guilty when they're talking to you. Either they're saying no when they didn't want to, or they're saying goodbye, or you've gone above and beyond and it's their fault. They've done something really stupid like clients do sometimes and you have to fix it. When you hear people feeling a little bit guilty, they are looking for a way to make themselves feel better. And they want to do something nice for you. And so actually it's not manipulative at all. Well, it might be, but manipulation gets a bad press. This is good manipulation. Asking them then if there's someone that they can refer you to is such a powerful time to ask, because they essentially, you're giving them a get out of jail free card. You're giving them a way to completely get off the emotional hook. And so it's a really, really powerful time to ask that one. So we know we're right with asking, we know what we're asking for, we know when we're asking. How to ask was the next piece. Now, this is something else that isn't one size fits all. There is, just as a very quick aside, actually, one of the best nicknames ever was, there was an old Crystal Palace player and many other clubs defender from the 90s called Fitz Hall, and his nickname was one size fits all, which I just think is absolute genius. But there we go. But there isn't a one size fits all approach to asking. There is a golden rule. And that's that you need to be very clear that you are looking for an introduction and that you are looking for a referral. If you're all wishy-washy about it, then it won't happen. And you need to be clear that you want an introduction, because I don't know about you, but when someone says to me, oh, I mentioned you to so-and-so the other day, they're going to get in touch. How often does that person get in touch? They don't typically. So be clear about the fact that you are looking for an introduction, because then you're in control of that relationship then. The other thing on this is that I'm going to go through some various kind of structures of how to ask next, but it has to be done in a way that feels comfortable to you. Now, with the ick in mind, there is an element of, do I just need to get over myself? But once you've kind of sanity checked that, the way you ask needs to feel natural to you for 2 reasons. One, if it doesn't feel natural to you after a bit of practice and getting over yourself, you just won't do it. No matter how many times I tell you and how many times you want to, if you can't find a way that feels natural, you won't do it. But also, if it doesn't sound natural, then it will be jarring to the people that you request. And they go, whoa, where did this come from? I've known so many people that suddenly get all formal when they're asking for referrals. And there's no need. But that doesn't mean that you need to be super informal as well. It's about whatever fits naturally and is congruent with how you speak. So I'm typically quite cheeky with it. I'm quite upfront with it. It's very easy for me to do that because of the nature of what I do. I talk about referrals, therefore it'd be odd not to do it. It's almost half of the course kind of thing. But there are people where I would be slightly more structured about it. So it's really, really up to you. And even then it's not only up to you, but it's up to the person you're asking. and it's about kind of how is it going to resonate? How's it going to resonate with them? But there is definitely a danger of being overly formal sometimes when asking for referrals, and it's not about that. It's about being intentional in the ask, but doing it in a really natural way, so that it doesn't feel like a sales activity for the other person. It just feels like them doing you a favor. And people people love to give referrals. So if your tone makes it sound like you're asking for something above and beyond, then people will pick up on that. So it's about being really relaxed in how you ask, but still with that intent there. And that relaxed will come down different for each person. In terms of how to ask, there's 4 main ways, I think, for in terms of how you position a pitch or referral. One is value-based. So this is all about the value to the person being referred. As in, I would like referrals to this type of people, or if you hear someone saying this, I'd like a referral to them because, and it's all about the value the other person will receive. The next one is opportunity-based. So this is more about what's in it for the referrer. Okay, so where people are running affiliate programs and things like that, then this typically is one that sits there. So it's where you are having something up front as the reason to refer, as a reward, it being around that. Not my favorite. Next one, thankful, honest. This is where people, if you get this wrong, then it just doesn't feel right again. It's where people say, we're really lucky that our business has grown through referrals, if you know anyone. So it's being either thankful or grateful in advance, or just being honest and really upfront about we're doing this thing at the moment and we're really grateful for referrals. Just being really out there with it. And the final one, I call it campaign led or topical. So this could be and typically this would be mixed with the values led one or an opportunity based one, but it's giving a really specific reason as to why you're asking for referrals right now. This particularly works if you are bunging an email out there kind of thing en masse, or putting stuff out on social. So it could be around, I've just done some work with a tree planting company, and they use veterans and service leaders in the UK. So they're going to do some stuff around Armed Forces Day. Okay, so around any forces celebrations, it's an excuse for them to do something. Not remembrance, because we decided that commemorating isn't the right time to do it, but celebrating is. So are there themed days around your business? It could be if you're working in a technical space. I've just done some work with an SEO agency, and Google are about to do a whole load of things to the algorithm. And so for them, that's an opportunity to go out and go, do you know anyone like this? This stuff is happening, and so we can help in this way. So is there a really topical reason that you can mix in with one of these other forms of asking, because then they just become more powerful. And so if you do it in the tone that's right for you, but then these are typically the structural ways of doing it, then we should be on to a winner. Okay, so the final thing I promised to cover, and so will, is around saying thank you. Now, first and foremost, communication is key. When someone makes a referral, they're not just giving you a lead, they are giving you a little bit of their reputation for you to, and they're entrusting you with it. And it's so important that we give that the respect that it deserves. And that starts with letting the other person know what's going on. So for me, if someone makes an introduction to me, I will always thank them when I respond. Normally it's by email, so I'll always include them in the copy. I normally move them to BCC because it saves their inbox getting battered, so I'll mention that. As someone who makes a lot of referrals, I always appreciate it when someone does that for me, puts it into BCC, because it means my inbox isn't getting cluttered. But then I'll keep them up to date at certain points along the way. So if a call isn't booked for 3 weeks' time, then I'll go, oh, thanks, Martin, thanks for that referral. Speaking to them in 3 weeks' time. If the call's booked for like 2 days' time, I'll wait 2 days and let Martin know how that call went afterwards, because it's a short space of time. There's no exact figure, but it's what you don't ever want is the person that made the referral wondering what's going on with it. You want to make sure you keep them in the loop. And then at close, you want to say thank you again, whether it's successful or not. Because if it's wasn't a successful referral, let them know why. because that just educates them. It's good to say thank you, they went out their way to do it, but it also gives you an opportunity to educate them on what a better referral would look like next time. And then if it is successful, we then move on to the very, very grey area of reward and recognition. So always have the recognition piece, say thank you. If you can send them an actual thank you card, if it's successful, if you can send them an actual thank you card in the post, brilliant. If there's something personal you can do, amazing. Pushing things up front as if you refer, we do this, can be very, very dodgy. There's a brilliant book, Drive by Dan Pink, which talks about extrinsic and intrinsic motivators. For people that are intrinsically motivated and just want to refer you anyway, if you push a reward too heavy at outset, like for everyone that refers us, we'll give you this, then it can turn people off. They can go, well, I was going to refer you anyway. And that whole kind of turning it into a sales activity can make people recoil and be less likely to refer you. If you are going to have a scheme, then positioning it, make sure you position it as a thank you for referring. Make sure you position it as a reward for referring rather than a reason someone will refer. If you are going to have that kind of upfront reward piece. If you're not going to do upfront reward, then personal gifts are always best because it shows you really cared. And if you think there might be someone who is extrinsically motivated and wants to kind of be rewarded for their referrals, then you can have that conversation with them. Anyone who's in a sales-based role will typically want commission, well, not necessarily will be motivated by potentially earning off referring you on a consistent basis. So anyone in the financial type space, anyone where there's a commission related to their work anyway, typically is gonna like this piece. But you can always have that conversation if you think there's scope for people to refer you consistently. But that's that. So the key things are, remember that people love to give referrals, right? So you're not going to be a burden on someone as long as you make it easy. And we can make it easy by being really specific about what we're asking for, either in terms of a specific type of business or a moment in time or a pain that they're going through and what they're saying. With our customers and our clients and our network, make sure we're asking at the right time. When are those real wow moments? Make sure that you're asking in a way that's natural to you, but is still very intentional in terms of looking for an introduction. And then remember to keep your referrers in the loop and say thank you. Do all those things, and you should find that you're both asking for and receiving referrals on a much more frequent basis. Look, there is much more to this. If people are looking for a little bit more support on this stuff, then I mean, my day job is helping businesses with this. I run workshops either with you or with your team, where essentially we go through all the stuff that we've been through today in much more detail. There's a whole framework with notes and actions that comes afterwards, and then onward focus and support and accountability ongoing. Prices for that start at $9.20. I do public stuff sometimes, but I haven't for a while. If that would be of interest to people, then sling something in the chat, and if there's enough interest, then maybe I would look at that. Next steps are you'll get an email with a link on anyway, but as I said, there'll be a follow-up with the slides, the recording, a link to book a call if anyone wants to chat about the work that I do. But other than that, that is all. So I'm going to stop sharing and throw it open to all of you wonderful people for any questions. Yes, Gideon, fire away.
Well, thank you first of all, Dave. That was really interesting, and really, I've made a few notes, and it's great to be able to get the slides. I guess the question would be, how would we best refer you in terms of like who's your sweet spot, who's the sort of target, your target audience, and if we were to bump into them, or is it anyone who's looking for more referrals?
Yeah, can I just confirm to everyone that I hadn't planted Gideon in there to ask that question. How many people ask me for referrals? So you're being very gracious. So you know what, Gideon, I am pretty broad in who I work with, because what I do is quite niche and targeted, and there aren't that many of us. I work with service and SaaS brands. Essentially, product isn't really my thing in terms of really working with a client. Typically people, particularly on the partnership stuff, people typically have a customer value of kind of 3 to 5k upwards in terms of lifetime value. The reason why but that's only really that it's not that the work's more suited to them, it's that the sales conversation is easier. if I'm being perfectly honest, people don't, the ROI equation in someone's head becomes much easier when they've got a higher customer value. But it's service and SaaS, but typically people will be talking about needing to do more stuff. Like, we've grown this far organically, we need to do something else. And it's typically people they don't realize that they can actually do this stuff better and more intentionally. So that's a really good hook for me, is when people are talking about needing to do more because they've grown organically, because very, very rarely have they really captured this to its ultimate potential. But where people are getting referrals already consistently without having a process, that's a pretty strong starting point. So, but thank you for asking, and also anyone that's looking for a speaker for their event. That's the other, for me personally, that's the other referrals that are great for me is speaking gigs. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Any question about other people's businesses rather than me? Anything to contextualize this for you?
No. I'm trying
I've got more questions I could ask.
Can I jump in? Sorry, yeah, I'll jump in now, Gideon. Then you can have a go. So I come straight back to the reward and recognition piece, and it really is such a grey area. And it's that I want to incentivize, but I don't. And how do you know when to incentivize? I don't really know what my question is, but it's just really grey.
Yeah. So, as I said, it depends on the individual, right? So I'll give an example of where someone referred me in to a really chunky bit of work that lasted for a number of years. But he's not money motivated at all. And if I'd have tried to push a percentage on him, he wouldn't have accepted it. It would have offended him. So, but what I did do was I took him out for lunch at a sushi restaurant, and I gave him a quite chunky, but not anywhere near as chunky as the fee I would have been paying him for months and months, Ticketmaster voucher, because he'd said in a conversation that him and his wife hadn't been to a gig for years. And so doing things like that show you care is entirely appropriate in all instances. And then when it comes to, do I think this person would appreciate some kind of onward commission-based type thing? Gut feel. It's gut feel, but it starts with what role do they do, right? As I said, if someone's in a sales role, then there's a much higher chance that they're going to be interested in that type of thing. But it is gut feel. I can't give you, there's no magic formula for figuring out whether someone's extrinsically or intrinsically motivated other than a conversation with them. And there's nothing wrong with saying, when you're saying thank you for the referral they'd made, going, I do this piece if that's of interest to you. And they'll either go, oh, no, I refer you because I think what you do is great, awesome. And in which case if they're going to refer you consistently, great, and you just always say thank you, and then every now and again do something more, a grander gesture, because you really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Very good.
Cheers. Gideon.
Sorry, I'm taking hogging the question slot. One of the things I have a problem with referrals is, and I think probably like most people here, much of my work comes through referral, but sometimes like they're not the kind of referral that I want, and it might not be the right business, or it might be, the type of work, and that's not because someone's not referred me correctly. Maybe it's been because I'm not as clear with people who I want to be referred to, I guess, is one solution to that, to be more upfront with people about the kind of businesses I would like them to refer me to.
It's amazing how quickly that will switch when you do that, Gideon. I found
Okay.
myself last year, it was probably October last year, I just had some real moments of clarity around what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. When I was having one-to-ones with people, I was kind of articulating that more, and my quality of referrals went through the roof because people were really, really clear about it. And it's that thing around, by being more specific, you worry that maybe you're going to get less referrals, but you'll actually get more because
Okay.
the people to pinpoint those people, but you'll be really, really articulate on the value that you deliver to them. So, so yeah, that it starts with you being crystal clear in your own mind, and then when you're communicating it to others. Yeah,
and I think I've figured out, about asking people for referrals. And again, this sounds a bit icky when I say it out loud, but like when I do have a client that I really enjoy working with, or it's a type of business that I want to, that's the sort of business I want to work more with. I guess that's a way into the referral conversation, isn't it? Not to kind of be too sycophantic with them, but to say, look, you're the kind of client I'd like to work with. Can you introduce me to people who are like you, sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no one minds a bit of ego stroking, right? So
no.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and when you deliver at those wow moments, it becomes easy as well. You might not be able to ask right then in the moment, because someone just had a breakthrough, suddenly going, oh, kind of referral, please. Might seem a little bit off, but what you do is you pick up the phone to them as soon as possible after that wow moment to go, look, really glad that was amazing yesterday, blah blah da 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 da. Look, really love work, and then you do your piece of really like working with brands like you, would like to deliver more moments like that. Who do you know? Or if you want to make it really easy for people, you go on LinkedIn and you find a couple of people that they know, and you ask for introductions to those people. Because what happens then is, if they don't actually know those people, they are more likely to refer you to someone because you've done all the hard work. They're more likely to then do a bit of hard work themselves, but you've also trained them on the type of people you want, unless you go for two wildly different people. But if you've given a couple of names who are quite similar, they'll go, oh, I don't actually know them that well, but I tell you what I do know, would this person be good? And you go, yeah, thank you very much. So asking at the right time helps make it that little bit easier to do that piece that you mentioned, and it not feel sycophantic, as you say.
Dave, I thought it was really interesting you talking about how it sounds really obvious now, but the fact that actually people get a buzz out of recommending, or it's that the whole karmic thing where it's almost like paying it forward, that sort of thinking. And I've had a bit of success with one of my clients who ex-clients who got treated very badly by his last employers, and he's now actively looking for jobs in his industry, and I've just been shunting him out to everyone that I know that's fairly senior in that industry. And that's, for me, that's coming back in bucket loads, because it's the same industry, it's drinks, lots of people know each other in it, and it's just it's heap at the moment. There's no business, but it's heaping a lovely warm glow around. So so sooner or later something's got to come off out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The law of reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
Is gain and all those wonderful stuff. It's absolutely, if everyone did this stuff, the world would be a much better place.
Yeah.
Dave, I was thinking about combining the sort of issues of reward and recognition with the warm, fuzzy feeling, and going down the route of proposing or offering charitable donations on behalf of people who make referrals.
So yeah. So when we're looking at partnerships, I say that I would always have a commercial relationship in place, even if the person doesn't really want it. And even though it's definitely not the main reason why someone will refer them, it's just about elevating the relationship up. But in those instances, you get sometimes there'll be people that really genuinely don't want the commission, or their industry or sector will say that they can't have commissions.
Yeah, most of my clients, it wouldn't be appropriate for them to accept anything.
Yeah, and so having a pot that it goes into can work really, really well, because it's still adding that piece in place. I do I plant trees for anyone who even makes an introduction, because it doesn't cost next to nothing and it's a nice thing to do. But yeah, if you can make that pot relevant to whatever you do as well, then it's even more powerful. Either what
Yeah, for us it's water ambulance. So
yeah. So yeah, no, I really like it, and it's something that that I recommend with people when they come up as a barrier on this stuff. So, and as you say, yeah, it just makes that warm fuzzy glow even better. So yeah, I love it. Nice.
Can I? Sorry, another one of interest. So I'm working with a heating engineer who has a raft of engineers on his books as such. And I suppose, yeah, I'm planning on going to speak to him for a review of some sort, a testimonial, a case study. A referral would be great, but I suppose hesitant again about referring or asking for a referral in a very similar industry. So yeah, I'd like to work with other people like you. What's the thought of, well, he might not want to refer because they might get all the good stuff I'm doing. And therefore, so how do you play that if you're really trying to be specific?
So what are complementary sectors? Right. So he will know a bunch of other people who are electrician, other tradespeople, essentially. He'll know a bunch of other people, because of course he will, because people typically network within their space, right? So that's how you get around that one.
Okay, that's good. Good shout. Thanks, Dave.
Close enough to him, but different enough that he's not going to feel protected over your skills.
Good. Thank you.
No worries.
In drinks, I found that with reference to what you just said there, Neil, then I found that clients actually don't mind sharing, because I do PR. They don't mind saying, "Oh, he'll do a good job for you." It's more, I don't know, it depends on the industry, I guess, but it's more collaborative, and he did a good job on my brand, so he can do a good job on your brand. It's not a thing that would make them sort of possessive about, oh no, he's mine completely.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout.
And he'll probably have mates who are fellow electricians as well, because they all they'll probably contract to each other as well. So it might not be a completely closed route. I don't know.
No. And I can imagine the heating engineer who's very local to me wouldn't want to refer me to other local heating engineers, but if he knows somebody who lives over in, I don't know, London or somewhere that's out of his catchment, I suppose will make sense.
Yeah.
But as you say, other trades people. No, good shout. Thank you both.
No worries. Any more? Or are we all done? All good.